Welcome everyone to today's program, and I've got a very special guest with me today, and many of you already know her. Dr. Lori Shemek has been on our show before. We've done a lot of food demonstrations in the past, and Lori, it is great to have you back.
Thank you so much, Ward. You know how much fun we've had, so this is really thrilling for me, really. I love spending some time with you and getting to talk healthy.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And I know,
yeah.
yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, she is the author of some amazing books, How to
Mhm.
Fight Fat Inflammation, which we've talked about before, but you've still got to get that book if you have not read it yet, and then Fire Up Your Fat Burn. And I understand, Dr. Lori, that you have a new book out, and what is that one?
Ooh, it's called Beginner's Guide to Intermittent Fasting. So, an exceptional tool to really undo all the bad things you've done to your body.
Well, that's our subject today. So explain to all of us,
Okay.
what is intermittent fasting?
Yeah. So intermittent fasting is simply not eating for periods of time. And the one thing everybody thinks that it is challenging and it's hard but it really isn't because we've all done it. Have you ever had brunch where you've delayed breakfast for a few hours, right? So that's intermittent fasting. And the good thing is if you do it the right way, you are going to see powerful effects. So if you, for example, go to sleep, your last meal is, say, 9 o'clock at night, rather late in my opinion, but just most people eat really late. And you wake up at 9 in the morning, or you have your next meal at 9 in the morning. That's 12 hours of fasting. So from your prior dinner to that breakfast, you have been fasting for 12 hours, and most of it was sleeping. And that's the good thing about fasting is that you can do it, most of it while you're sleeping.
Well,
And we all go through a natural fasting each night anyway.
Well, Lori, I've been practicing this for a while now, and what I do is, I like to try to get the meal into about 6 p.m. But there are times when we have a long day, and then we don't get to eat till about 7 or 8, and then
Right.
I make sure that the next day I don't have my first meal until noontime. And
Oh,
for some
nice.
people, they're like, "Wow, that's tough," but I've heard some tricks maybe with coffee, adding a little bit of coconut oil is okay to do that by the time you take your first meal at noon.
Right. And actually, that's one of the problems. People think they're fasting and they're really not. So they're adding any food that has a calorie in it is breaking the fast. So any food that has a calorie is essentially bumping up your insulin, which then stops the fasting. What you want is flat insulin and flat glucose, essentially, pretty much. And that's what happens. And all the good things happen, all the magic, if you will, happens when we don't eat. So, for example, something called autophagy occurs. I'm sure you've heard of this
Oh
word,
yes.
but yes, it's like cellular house cleaning. And this is really our body's most powerful way to detox. It simply is cleaning out all that cellular junk, all of that debris that collects when our mitochondria, say, are churning out creating that energy, that ATP, and all sorts of cellular machinations take place during our digestive process and afterwards. But we really need autophagy in order to optimize our cellular health. And intermittent fasting does that, and it also optimizes our mitochondrial health, which is really a whole nother show. But
Right.
suffice it to say that intermittent fasting is beyond powerful in terms of really weight loss, brain health, gut health, better sleep, and the list goes on. I could list literally 10 things: lifespan, health span, cellular health, mitochondrial health. Everything you can think of is a part of the benefits of intermittent fasting.
Well, let me ask you this. What about, for an example, let's say someone is type 2 diabetic. Um,
hmm
can they do intermittent fasting and receive benefits from that?
Yes, but I prefer people, they really can, and it's very beneficial for them. But I really, with type 2 diabetes, I prefer that they work with a healthcare practitioner or their physician. But for example, now the ketogenic diet, which is a very low carb diet, is excellent. We know that simply going into ketosis, which intermittent fasting puts you into, is going to help reverse type 2 diabetes. Verta Health has great research out there showing that they've been doing that, and it's fantastic.
Well, I love that. Now, with intermittent fasting, I understand there's a lot of different ways of doing it. For you, what do you suggest? Maybe stop your last meal at 6 p.m. and then going how long till the first meal?
Well, it's really, I don't want anybody to start it, jump right into it, and then say one day I'm going to just intermittent fast. And what I like to do is, especially because most people are very glucose dependent. They're not fat, they're not using their fat as fuel. They're using glucose as fuel. And so the average person ingests 300 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is very high. So when you go from no food to, from all that carbohydrate ingestion to no food, it's painful, and it usually doesn't stick around. So what I have my clients do, and I have my readers do, is I have them stop snacking at first. So stop snacking in between meals for about a week or two, and then start reducing your carbohydrate load, just generally. And then we can talk about fasting. Say your last meal is at 7. Well, then your next meal can be at 7 in the morning. And that's not painful at all. That's really not. And so we've all had to take those fasting blood tests, right?
Right.
Where it's for 12 hours before. But, there are people who it just doesn't work for. But in general, most people find it very effective. It really is a great tool, as I mentioned, to optimize your health and undo really any bad health choices you've made or inadvertently made. Whatever.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's what I love about intermittent fasting. And ladies and gentlemen, you need to pick up Dr. Lori Shemek's brand new book about intermittent fasting. Go to her website, drlorishemek.com. It's right there on the screen. And also, too, if you want to know how bad fats are in the body and the inflammation it causes, you need to pick up her book, How to Fight Fatflammation. It is a bestseller, and it has changed people's lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Lori, for coming onto the program today, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you for having me, Ward.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this message.